Check out the full story on Amazon. Link in the description below. To say this man had a lot of guns is a total understatement. When I walked into Sergio's enormous basement, I thought I was walking into a military armory. If I thought Zach was the most heavily armored man in this town, oh boy, I was wrong. Every corner of the basement was filled to the brim with rifles, assault rifles, machine guns, sniper rifles, pistols, and there was even a section of the basement displaying an impressive assortment of knives and combat swords. And to my amazement, there was a large military jeep in the middle of the basement floor. I couldn't see how it could have gotten there. It must have weighed over 2 chuckle-fucking tons. Pretty impressive, eh? Sergio said. Holy shit, it is. We walked over to a giant glass display case, where an enormous rifle lay propped up against the glass interior. From stock to barrel, this gun was almost twice the size of the .50 caliber rifle Zach shot Skinny with. It was black, enormous, and looked as if it was designed to kill whales. An open ammo crate sat beside the rifle, filled with bullets that must have been twice as long as my middle finger. PGM Precision Hecate 2 French anti-tank rifle. A genuine anti-tank rifle that was used to destroy tanks. Duh. This rifle has killed beasts that have literally came from the depths of hell in every sense of the word. So if this rifle doesn't kill that wendigo, I don't know what will. And if that doesn't work, I have a fucking grenade launcher. Zach took the rifle out of the display, and based on the way he handled it, the rifle was heavy. I carried the ammo box, the grenade launcher, and everything else, and we took all this stuff upstairs, where we prepared to take the enormous rifle to the field behind Sergio's house for a little target practice. Thanks, Sergio, Zach said as we carried the rifle to the field. No problem. Just remember to return it. That damn rifle cost $7,000. When we had set up and put in earplugs, I watched Zach as he set up the gun, aimed at a large tree, and fired. Even though we were wearing earplugs, the rifle was loud, and when I say it was loud, I mean it was really loud. When the gun fired, the recoil was so powerful that Zach stumbled and fell over, and the gun sent an enormous shockwave through the dusty air. And when we examined the tree Zach was aiming at, I was impressed. The entire lower half of the tree was destroyed, and the upper half of the trunk only hanging by a few loose wooden shreds. And the bullet probably had very, very powerful penetration, because 3 other trees had enormous bullet holes behind it, which finally stopped when the bullet hit a large boulder. So Sergio was right. If this gun couldn't kill Skinny, nothing could. Holy shit, I whispered. That gun is powerful. That's what we're hoping for anyway. Since Zach was the only one who could operate the PMG Precision Hecate 2 French anti-tank rifle, the gun stayed at his house. And as for me, I carried a Molotov cocktail and a truck that could hopefully run over Skinny. That very same night, I was playing ping pong with Kyle in the basement when I heard something outside. Oh shit, Kyle said. There's something outside. My heart dropped. Let's go back upstairs, where my shotgun is. Good idea. I sighed and said for the second time, oh shit. When we were upstairs, in the room that faced the forest, I grabbed my shotgun, handed Kyle the Molotov cocktail and the lighter, and looked outside. To confirm my suspicions, that son of a bitch Skinny was standing just outside the door, wandering around my backyard, searching for something. Probably Kyle, or me, or maybe he was just pissed that he got run over earlier. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, get down! Kyle ducked under the window. Why? That wendigo that tried to kill me is right outside. Cool, Kyle said, and he looked out the window and took a pretty quick look at Skinny before ducking again. Oh shit, that thing looks like the fucking Terminator! Shut up, man, stay quiet, I said, reaching for my phone. I took it out, looked out the window, and took a picture of Skinny. Luckily, I've watched way too many horror movies and knew to keep the flash mode off. And besides, the motion sensor light were going off like crazy. I shut the curtains and got back down, looking at the picture I had taken. Unlike some of the clickbait 3 a.m. challenge thumbnail photos you see on YouTube, the picture I had taken of Skinny was very clear. I could make out every detail, even the part where Skinny's skull was partially cracked from getting pounded with shotgun shells. Cal and I rushed around the house, shutting the curtains and locking the windows and doors without Skinny noticing us. I considered calling the local sheriff's department, but if a monster hunter and a .50 caliber rifle can't down a cyborg wendigo, the police probably couldn't do shit. After multiple close calls and things dropping, we hunkered down in the basement as I texted Zach whilst Kyle ironically watched Terminator 2 Judgment Day on the flat-screen TV. I sent the picture and he responded with this. "Is it still there?" "Yeah. Skinny's been standing outside like some dumbass." "Well, shit, did he see you?" "No, but Kyle's making a shit ton of noise. Should I shoot him?" "Shoot Kyle? Yeah, you should." "Damn it, I didn't mean shoot Kyle. I was asking if I should shoot Skinny." "No, if he hasn't seen you, you can't risk getting his attention. You probably can't kill him anyway." "Well, then can you come with the anti-tank rifle?" "No, I'm on an assignment right now. I'm responding to your text in the middle of the woods 2 towns over. I'm hunting a fleshgate right now. Just hold on tight and try not to die or shit yourself." "Okay, I guess I'll just stay here until Skinny fucks off." "Alright. Wait, I think the fleshgate's behind me." And with that, I shut off my phone and turned back to Kyle. "I've got some good news and some bad news." "Well, what's the good news?" I laughed. "You're so gullible. There is no good news. But the bad news is..." I walked to the top of the basement stairs, opened the door, and looked outside at the backyard window. Sure enough, Skinny was still roaming around the backyard. Skinny is still out there, and we probably have to stay here if we don't want to get seen, because he's now looking into the windows. Kyle chuckled like a madman, face planted himself into the couch, and screamed. It might have been more interesting if Skinny spotted us, and we had an intense standoff involving shotguns, gasoline, and fire, but nothing happened. And I'm thankful for that. I mean, we probably would have been screwed if Skinny spotted us moving around inside my house. At sunrise, when Skinny disappeared back into the thick woods, I called Zach to tell him everything was okay, and I asked how his monster hunting trip went. He said that there was more than one flashgate, whatever the hell those things are, and he ended up resorting to a knife, physics, and a cliff. After a sleepless night, I sat at my shitty dinner table, eating expired ham and noodles. My income was that of an average college student, which is low, unless you have rich parents. "Where did that bitch go to?" Kyle asked as he poured a box of cereal into a glass bowl that he would probably break sooner or later. "What?" "That wendigo thing you call Skinny. Where'd it go? Why does it look like a cyborg now?" How the hell should I... Cyborg? Suddenly I remembered something very, very important. Something I should have known and remembered a long, long time ago. I ran over to my phone, turned it on, and looked at a picture of Skinny I'd taken yesterday. To confirm my suspicions, on Skinny's right shoulder, where it was mostly replaced by metal parts, the acronym, logo, CORE, was imprinted into some of the steel. Holy fucking balls. "Hey Kyle," I said. "Yeah?" "I think that Lawrence and his scientists created Skinny 2.0 or some shit for fun. I'm gonna call Zach and let him know." "Alright," Kyle said half-heartedly. "And tell him I said fuck you." "So, are you sure that it said core in the picture?" "Yeah, see for yourself," I said, pulling out my phone, showing Zach the picture. Then Zach offered his professional opinion/theory. Based on all his experience with shadow organizations, Core was probably using Skinny as some kind of biological weapon or soldier, modifying him to be nearly impervious to all physical damage. "So what are you trying to propose?" "I know I said I wouldn't drag you into shit you don't need to care about," Zach said. I didn't like where this was going. but we need to get more information on what Core is doing because releasing and creating monsters isn't exactly innocent. And Zach said exactly what I expected him to say. I've talked with a couple of my co-workers, and we've decided to break into Core's base and get more information on what they're doing. I started laughing my ass off. Are you kidding? These people have guards, money, power, and guns, and you're going to infiltrate their base? Zach shrugged. Yeah, I guess. But I've done this kind of thing before. Oh, of course you did, I said. What, now you're going to tell me you snuck into North Korea to hunt some monster there? I've done that before. But anyway, only 2 other people have agreed to come with me. And since it's a stealth mission, we need a couple more people to come with us, maybe 2. Zach, I'm a marine biologist, not a monster hunter. Zach grinned. Well, how many monsters have you killed? I thought for a bit. 4 in total. 2 anglers, 1 grootslang, and a tall crackhead thing I killed a couple of years ago. I may not have mentioned this, but nearly 5 years ago when I first moved into this town, I killed a monster. And it was also the first time I had a weird experience in the town, which wasn't a great first impression. But the monster itself isn't as interesting as how I killed it. So that night it was dark, cloudy, basically the cliché dark and stormy night, and after a long, stupid day of moving luggage, I decided to relax by driving around the outskirts of town. It was 10, and pitch black with only my headlights illuminating the shitty road in front of me. The road was very narrow and thick with trees on both sides, and it was mostly made up of loose rocks and dirt, a very shitty material to make a road out of. I glanced outside, and at that exact moment, I spotted something large moving swiftly through the trees. I couldn't get a good look at it, so I simply dismissed it as part of my imagination. A big mistake. A little bit unnerved, I kept moving. Throughout most of the car ride, I kept seeing something moving through the trees. It could have been a deer, but in the split second I saw the thing, it appeared to be humanoid in shape. Every time it appeared, the thing moved so fast I could barely see it. By now, I paused my podcast and was very alert. I shifted in my seat, uncomfortable physically and emotionally. Now I knew for sure that there was something out there. Panic swelled inside me as I spotted something move against the forest again. I pressed my foot on the gas pedal harder, even more desperate to get back to my house. Then something horrifying happened. A little stupid, but still horrifying. A couple of minutes later, after I spotted something moving in the forest, my headlights illuminated this thing. I slammed on the brakes, almost hitting the thing. It was a humanoid creature with very long and thin arms, legs, and torso. The creature was also extremely skinny. The creature's face looked almost human, if it were not for the black eyes and large mouth filled with jagged teeth. When it stood, it was about 10 feet tall. For a moment, the creature just stared directly at me, staring at me like a fucking moron. I have to admit, I wasn't really scared. And since it was my first time encountering something like this, I didn't know how to properly react. 2 can play that game, I thought, as I stared back. For a couple of seconds, we just had this awkward staring contest. I snapped out of my trance when the creature swiped at my car with one hand, just inches away from the windshield. Its long claws engraved deep scratch marks into the metal hood of my car. I floored it and drove around the creature. I drove as fast as I could, ignoring every single road safety law. To my surprise and horror, the creature easily kept pace with me, crawling beside my car at a terrifying pace. I glanced at the hellish creature, and it grinned, revealing several rows of razor-sharp teeth. The dirt road seemed to stretch on for miles, but I finally saw the tree line. I glanced in the rearview mirror, only to see that the creature was right behind me, almost catching up. My car burst out of the forest, and I was no longer on the gravel road. I was back on the paved road. the first sign of reaching my nearby town. After being pursued by the creature for a few minutes more, I finally caught sight of the gas station, the one at the edge of town that I mentioned earlier. I put the pedal to the metal and I sped towards the parking lot and I parked the car. I didn't have any guns on me, so what I did have were a dumb brain and an even dumber idea. I grabbed a spare can of gas I had in my trunk and I started pouring the pure gasoline all over my car, which was a shitty Toyota RAV4 I got from my brother once he bought a new car. I took my wallet and phone out of the car, checked my pocket for a Zippo lighter, and sure enough, it was there. And that's about when the creature burst out of the woods and started charging towards me and my car. To make a long story short, the creature ran at me, and right when it was in front of my car, I ran through the Zippo lighter onto the gasoline-covered car. A huge fireball blew up into the sky and completely disintegrated the creature. And that's how I lost my first car. I turned and ran inside the gas station, panting, and screamed at the cashier, "Did you just see that?" The cashier looked up at me and said, "What?" I tried calming myself down. "Did you see the monster? I blew it up!" He calmly looked outside at the smouldering fireball in the parking lot. Then he looked back at me. "By the way, it's gonna rain soon, so don't worry about the fire. Do you need me to call someone? 25 cents per minute." "No," I answered. At the time, I didn't know anybody in town. I looked at the shelves, and I spotted a Bowie knife and a flashlight. "Can I buy these?" I asked, gesturing towards the items. "Sure," he said as I handed him $30. He gave me the change, and I took the knife and flashlight, walked in the rain for a couple of miles, and I hitchhiked the rest of the way home. "So, Roger, you've killed 4 monsters. And the requirement of monster killed to become a cryptid hunter is 4. "Yeah, but what the hell does that have to do with me?" "It means that if you wanted to become a cryptid hunter, you could, right now. But only if you wanted. See, if a person kills at least 4 different types of cryptids or monsters, that qualifies them as a rookie cryptid hunter with a little bit of experience. And that also gives you the skills to come along. So are you coming with us? And if you are, bring at least one more person. And don't make it that shithead Kyle." I know it sounds super cliche, but how I ended up in a van full of weapons with 4 other people is a mystery. Besides Kyle, Zach, and I, there were 2 other people that Zach mentioned earlier. Zach didn't want Kyle to come because of their fight a couple months ago, but since Kyle was ex-military and had very good fighting skills, Zach allowed him to come. The 2 other people that came were 2 men named Ollie and Alan. Zach was very vague about them. The only info he gave about Ollie and Alan was that they were friends and that they could be useful. We parked at the edge of the woods and we started walking down a trail that stretched on for miles. After we walked that first few miles down the trail, we came across a large barbed wire fence, and on the other side was a massive field, and an enormous building that resembled a cross between an office building and a high school that was situated in the middle of the field. "Holy shit," I said, looking at Zach. "Is that the place?" "Yep." We assumed that the place was heavily guarded, so we brought exactly what we needed. Wire cutters. Once we had cut a large section out of the fence, Zach pulled a pistol crossbow out of his backpack, and he shot all the security cameras facing us with precision. Now came the hard part. "When I say go, run towards the back entrance." "Where's the back entrance?" "Just follow me, Ollie, and Alan." "Right. So when are we gonna go?" As soon as Zach said go, we all covered 50-meter distance between us and the base in about 10 seconds. I stopped in front of the building to catch my breath, as I said, shit. "Oh, shit," Ollie said. "What?" Ollie showed us the keypad attached to the door. "You need a code to open the door. It's metal, so..." Right then, Kyle pulled out his pistol and fired several shots into the keypad. Whoa, holy shit! Ollie said, jumping away from the keypad. I screamed too, but it was all just incoherent swear words that were probably way too illegal to write down. What the fuck is wrong with you? Zach asked. Just as Zach was walking over to Kyle to beat the living shit out of him, the door slid open with a mechanical beep. Ladies first, Kyle smiled. Zach grumbled but didn't say anything. We all quietly stepped inside the doorway, which led to a long hallway. At the end of the hallway was a single elevator. Well, shit, I said. What are we planning to do? As soon as I said that, a man wearing a guard uniform and holding an AK-47 walked out of a room, into the hallway, smoking a cigarette and looking at his phone. I guess we weren't ready for that. The man looked up and oh shit, I bet he was surprised to see 5 grown men wearing military gear who were also holding AK-47s and metal baseball bats. Then I got a really stupid idea. What's that over there? I screamed. I didn't expect the guard to be stupid enough to look at whatever was over there, but I guess he was that stupid because he turned and looked in the opposite direction. Then I watched as Kyle took that opportunity to grab the guard's shoulder, spin him around, and say, "Surprise, motherfucker!" punching him right in the face. Either the guard's face was weak or Kyle's punch was a good one, because the guard fell flat on his face and didn't get back up. We just walked around him, down the hallway and to the elevator. Once we were all inside, I sighed and took a look at the buttons. Most of the structure must have been underground, because there were only 5 buttons that went up to the upper floors and 30 buttons that went down. I didn't read all of the buttons on the elevator panel, but some of the more interesting labels were these: Armory, Lab, Testing Zone, Containment Center, Projects Info File Storage, Holding Center, Restricted Area. Where do we go first? I asked. Zach answered. Projects, Info File Storage, that's probably our best bet. Hell yeah, I said as I pressed the Projects Info File Storage. In an instant, the elevator went deeper underground, and considering how many voices we heard through the elevator doors, there were at least more than 50 people on each floor. The elevator finally stopped, the doors opened, and we went out into the enormous underground room. As soon as we stepped out, we saw about a dozen scientists and people wearing business suits on the floor, and they all stopped what they were doing and looked at us. Before any one of us could consider doing something stupid again, Zach stepped down and said, "Core security, we're here to retrieve and look through some files." That's when he held out a fucking fake laminated clip-art FBI badge for half a second before putting it back. I held my breath and expected to be shot, but thankfully everyone went back to what they were doing. That gave me more time to look at the room. The room was about as big as a small soccer field, and it looked like a massive underground library with dozens of crammed files, papers, and books sticking out of the shelves. We all ran and ducked behind a huge shelf. That was a close one. Now, may I politely ask what the fuck we're supposed to do now? Anyone? Zach answered. Look through the files. Search for anything related to strange creatures, the gulper, skinny, wendigos, experiments, anything. Keep your eye out for any marine or cryptid experiments. That's what we're looking for. Try to look inconspicuous. What the hell does that mean? Kyle asked. Then I partnered up with Kyle, and we all split up in the library. I passed by a couple of sections, each section labeled very suspicious things like weapon tests, marine entities, research, rift dynamiting, and just what I was looking for, creature weaponization. I leafed through a pile of thick files and finally found the exact thing I was looking for. Inside a manila envelope was a thin file named Wendigo Experimentation. I took a picture of the file. So here it is, transcribed in its entirety. June 22nd, subject seems wounded for unknown reasons. Bullet holes in the subject. The subject is captured at 6 a.m. for testing and weaponization. June 22nd, subject is weaponized. Wounds are fixed. and internal metal plating is attached for extreme durability. The shoulder is also replaced by a metal counterpart to increase strength in the broken arm. The removed forearm is also replaced by a metal prosthetic. Extreme regeneration abilities are also given. Plans to send the subject to kill individuals Roger and Zachary. The subject is to be sent to kill Kyle Wilson at a later time. June 23rd. Both missions have failed. The subject has failed to kill Zachary, Roger, and Kyle Wilson. Reasons for assassination attempts. Zachary and Roger are getting too close to knowing about our organization, and this may interfere with progress. Kyle Wilson has close contacts with Roger, knows too much, and has failed to kidnap Roger to retrieve skin samples for Project 34. June 24th. Plans to send subject on June 25 to kill all 3 targets are made. I froze when I read our names written in the file. Today was June 24th. Somebody added new sheets of information today. Core knew about us, more than we expected. I grabbed Kyle and showed him the file. "Dude," I said, "these people are going to send Skinny to kill us tomorrow." "Neat?" "No, not neat. Oh, fuck me, it's kinda neat. We need to see some more action again." I stuffed the file into my backpack, walked over to Zach and whispered in his ear that we had found a file and info on Skinny. "We need to stay here a bit longer. Look through and see if these people have anything to do with any of the sea monster shit we've been seeing lately." "You mean the Leviathan, the Deep One, the Gulper and all that shit?" "Exactly." Right then I remembered the Marine Entities file section that I had leafed through earlier. I ran back to where I was, where Kyle was sitting, playing a Call of Duty mobile game on his phone and being generally useless. After finding the section of files that fell under the category Marine Entities, I dumped all the files under the category into my bag, when the researcher who looked like a Karen walked up to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing, young man?" "I'm 25 years old. I'm not a young man." Out of nowhere, Carl stood up and yelled at Karen, "Hey, we are high access security guards. Bob, this is the new guy." Kyle pointed at me. "Lawrence specifically asked us to bring these files to him. And if you'd like to say anything about that, I'd suggest you go tell him yourself. Got it? Now fuck off." And when the woman didn't fuck off, Kyle went berserk and knocked over a stack of papers, screaming, "Fuck off!" Karen walked away without saying a word. "You got those files?" he asked. Yeah, I do. By the way, why did you—" "Shush! Alright, let's get to the others and get the hell out of here." We ran to Zach, Ollie and Alan on the other side of the library, and I told them I had gotten all the files and that we needed to get the hell out of here. "Good. Get to the elevator." As inconspicuous as possible, we ran and got inside the elevator. Slamming the up button, we went up all the floors, back to the first floor we had come in, and the doors finally opened. I don't know what the deal is with these elevators, but as soon as the doors opened, we were met with another annoying surprise. In the middle of the hallway, 4 armed guards were standing on either side of a middle-aged man wearing a lab coat. He had combed over greying hair, a square jaw, pointy nose, and everything else that required you to look like an obvious villain. "Oh shit," Kyle whispered. "That's Lawrence. Oh shit." Lawrence cleared his throat. "Kyle, what a nice surprise to see you here. Now you all trespassed in a restricted area. And that means—" I think Lawrence had more to say, but he was cut off when I decided to do something stupid. And I suddenly ran up to him and punched him in the jaw. "Fuck yeah!" Kyle yelled. Instantly, everyone in the room broke out fighting. The guards pulled out their pistols, but I guess Zach did something about that because the guard pointing a pistol at him was on the ground a couple of seconds later. However, one of the guards pulled out his pistol and shot me square in the chest.